on defending Elvis like this for a while. I have sort of been put off a bit because I look a bit silly walking down the road with a phone stick in my hand. You know, sometimes the kids call out. I find it a bit awkward. So I do less of them now. I tend to try and do them more on the laptop, so I don't get funny looks at home, do I? So just a little sort of recap of today. I woke up this morning, I've already said this, had a couple of channels that had praised Defending Elvis, praised me, which I thought was great. Obviously Count Mozart. It's an unusual channel, Count Mozart. A man who is the undead, dressed as a vampire, and he has a very peculiar way about him. So when I first started watching him, I was like, what is this? He's obviously doing an Elvis review, but I was very, very pleasantly impressed and surprised, and actually found him fascinating, interesting, very intelligent. You know, you got to see past the makeup and the funny eyes and the nails and the hair and the teeth, the fangs, the vampire fangs. The truth is, guys, didn't we all grow up watching vampire movies? When I was a kid, we loved Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee. We loved the old werewolf movies, you know, the really old black and white ones. So I really enjoyed the old horror films when I was a kid. I used to hide behind the sofa, scared out of my mind. So when I saw, in a weird way, I relate to Count Mozart because I was obsessed with horror films when I was a kid. I think many people were. The Lost Boys is probably my favourite because there's kids in that, so I related to the kids. They were sort of, well, they were younger than me because I was a bit older by the time I watched Lost Boys, but I loved all the music in Lost Boys. Just a brilliant film. Does anyone remember the David Soul film? David Soul was in a vampire film, Salem's Lot. Anyone remember that? Salem's Lot with David Soul. I'm a big David Soul fan. You know, I thought he was a great singer. You know, he's gone now, hasn't he? But I love David Soul. Obviously, we are all Starsky and Hutch fans. How can you not be a Starsky and Hutch fan? I always liked Hutch. Hutch was my favourite. Don't really know why. I always remember I had a best friend. Oh my God, that car's falling apart. I always remember I had a best friend that looked just like Hutch. Wore the same jacket, you know, the black jacket with the white arms. So I'm definitely a big fan of Hutch. But do any of you guys remember that there was a vampire episode on Starsky and Hutch? Yeah, I do. I remember that really well. In fact, I think wasn't it a to be continued one? There was a part 1 and a part 2. You knew if the storyline was really interesting that they would do it as a part 1 and part 2, to be continued. Didn't we all love that, guys? They did it with the Hulk. They did it with the Bionic Man, the Bionic Woman. All those things that we were very fortunate to grow up with. Honestly, guys, I feel so lucky the programs I grew up with. I love the movie. Which movie was that? I missed that. Hi, Tony. I just thought I'd do a 10-minute chat while I walk home. I'm about 10 minutes from home, yeah? So, Tony